let's face it, Democrat, Republican, whatever side of the aisle you choose to identify with, one thing is for certain, I am pretty sure, right, that you aren't being represented the way that you would like to, and that the issues that you elected these people to handle are not being dealt with. Now, with that said, what is it? Is it that they're trying to get these things done, but they just have so many obstacles and hurdles in their way that it stops them from doing it? Are they just inept and can't perform this and just, bit off more than they can chew? I don't think it's either of those. I think that it is an intentional, deliberate dismantling of our system, and we're going to talk about it. So let's go.
Let's take a listen.
No government shutdown. Democrats have said from the start that the only solution for avoiding a shutdown is bipartisanship, and we're glad that Speaker McCarthy has finally heeded our message. In the end, more Democrats supported this bill in the House than Republicans, proving bipartisanship was the best answer all along.
Jamal Bowman, who represents much of the Bronx in Westchester County, is under investigation for pulling a fire alarm before the House voted on the funding bill earlier this evening. A camera captured Bowman pulling the alarm.
So what do you guys think about that? Let the WWE-ness of our government begin. So this fool, the representative of the Bronx, Jamal Bowman, pulls a fire alarm that clearly says fire in bold white letters. You don't see it in the shot there, but there is another one and you can see it clearly. It's your typical fire panel alarm. This man was a school principal in the past. He knows not to pull a fire alarm. And he absolutely knows that doing it in government is a freaking felony. Are they going to charge him? And then his excuse is even more moronic. So you understand what I'm saying. Are they inept? No, they're not. This is intentional. I didn't realize I was running late for a meeting, and I pulled it so that it can open the door. There, look at the doors. They have the push bar on the door. There is no way, unless that door was purposefully locked, right? There's no reason he couldn't have just pushed the push bar. But no, he opted for the alarm because we all know that fire alarms unlock all doors. There are fire safety mechanisms that do that, actually, but still, that is not the reason that he did it. We all know why he did it.
Our bipartisanship made this possible and showed the House that they had to act. We will keep the government open for 45 days with a clean CR at current funding levels. And we avoided all of the extreme, nasty, and harmful cuts MAGA Republicans wanted.
So you heard that. No cuts to spending. They're just going to keep it the same. And what are these nasty MAGA Republican bills, these nasty wants that they asked for? Well, let's see. Let's find out. All right. Among the demands from the House Freedom Caucus, spending levels below the top line numbers that McCarthy had agreed to with President Joe Biden as part of a bill to increase the nation's debt ceiling. So they wanted to lower that. They wanted it below that line. That was axed. What else you might say? What other dangerous MAGA? Let's go. Let's see. Inclusion of a bill that aims to build more wall at the southern border and restrict asylum for those seeking to remain in the U.S. for fear of persecution or harm. Doesn't sound bad to me, right? Isn't this Isn't this an issue that they're trying to resolve? Correct? You hear Greg Abbott constantly complaining about it, as is now Kathy Hochul here in New York. This is a real issue. Aren't they trying to resolve it? Apparently not. That was also removed, and that's a very dangerous MAGA extremist want. Okay, let's continue. Addressing what they call unprecedented weaponization of the Justice Department and the FBI to conduct political witch hunts. Well, I mean, we know that's happening. Look, you don't believe me, take his word for it.
What they've done is they've gone after opponents, so that if you become president or some other job, but if you become president and you don't like somebody, or if somebody's beating you by 10, 15, or 20 points like we're doing with crooked Joe Biden, let's indict the motherfucker. Let's indict him.
And opposing any blank check for Ukraine, the White House has asked Congress to provide more than $13 billion in emergency defense aid and an additional $8 billion for humanitarian support as Ukraine defends itself from Russia's invasion. So there you go. Now that's the one they want, right? Republicans and Democrats alike, with the exception of the Freedom Caucus here. Okay? That is the one they want. You don't believe me? Chucky Chuck is going to tell you right now.
After trying to take our government hostage, MAGA Republicans won nothing. So one more time, it is good Speaker McCarthy finally heeded our message that bipartisanship was and is and remains the only way.
The coalition that really runs this country is the Uni-Party. It is the Biden, McCarthy, Jeffries government.
He could have made this decision weeks ago.
In case you didn't know, I agree with Mr. Gates. Just thought you should know.
Now, I've said from day one, this is a bridge CR, a temporary solution, not the final destination. We will not stop fighting for more economic and security assistance for Ukraine.
Bingo, bango. We will not stop fighting. Don't we have our own? I am just tired of even saying it, as I am sure that you are tired of hearing it. We have our own problems. But again, remember, this is done by design. There is no other explanation for this. It isn't ineptitude. It isn't they're overwhelmed. It isn't they attempted to look for true resolutions to these issues. No, they create the problem, they compound it, they pretend to desire to fix it. They do nothing except for what they really want. Their tyrannical bullshit. That's what they want. He's telling you.
Majorities in both parties support Ukraine aid. Today, MAGA extremists have failed, bipartisanship has prevailed, and both parties have come together to avert a shutdown.
So, you heard him. Both parties support funding the proxy war in Ukraine. And you don't think so? Let's show you. I'm going to show you what members of both parties, the tried and true members. Here we go. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a New York Democrat, said he would put a supplemental spending bill for Ukraine on the floor as soon as next week. There you go, right? What about that wall, though? What about protecting our border? No, none of that. No, lowering the spending. What are we? What trillions in debt is our country? Anyway, who else? Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Kentucky Republican, said he expected the Senate would approve aid for Ukraine before the end of the year. So there you have it. Turtleneck Mitch, Dirty Chuck. There you go. Bipartisan, people, bipartisan. Unbelievable. It's laughable, really.
Today, I was rushing to make a vote. I came to a door that is usually open for votes, but today would not open. I'm embarrassed to admit that I activated the fire alarm, mistakenly thinking it would open the door. I regret this, sincerely apologize for any confusion this caused, but I want to be very clear, this was not me in any way trying to delay any vote.
No, of course not. There's a reasonable explanation for that. Of course it wasn't to delay a vote. AOC told us he was trapped in a vestibule. Oh my God, he was imprisoned in it.
But they're filing a motion to expel a member who, in a moment of panic, was trying to escape a vestibule.
All right, listen. okay, listen. Listen, okay, listen.
How'd he get in there, by the way? Oh, man, he was imprisoned in a... Shut up. It's unbelievable. That is just how ridiculously foolish they are and how stupid they believe that their constituents are. Okay? That is what that proves to me. They tell us time and time again, this is how they feel about us. This is why they do what they do. It's fucking... Anyway.
New Mexico's governor has ordered the suspension of laws allowing the open and concealed carrying of guns in Albuquerque. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has declared gun violence and drug abuse a public health emergency after a string of recent deadly shootings, some involving children. Her emergency order temporarily bans the carrying of guns on public property, and it's effective immediately. Grisham cited the recent shooting deaths of 3 children as well as 2 mass shootings in May. Some in law enforcement and elected officials say the order goes too far.
There are literally too many people to arrest.
There's literally too many people to arrest. Well, maybe if you shut down the southern border, there's too many people to arrest, so why not just get invaded by millions on a regular basis?
Well, this would allow us,
if someone's got a concealed carry permit in Albuquerque walking down a public street, they're not going to get arrested.
I can make the point that they should be. And this is the point. I'm willing to do anything and everything within a shred of evidence-based effort.
She's willing to betray her constituents for her gains, to move her agenda along. That's what she's willing to do. Because if you are a legal concealed carry citizen of New Mexico, which is an open carry state, by the way. So if you have the documentation and you are a legal concealed carry or open carry gun owner, well, she's ready to circumvent your Second Amendment right to carry your firearm and to protect yourself, your family, your property, your home. They tell you out loud all the time. All the time.
Because if you're not horrified that on any street corner in too many cities in New Mexico, there is someone with a gun sticking out of their waist or their belt.
And if they are a law-abiding citizen of New Mexico that has legally purchased their firearm and have it properly holstered and secured in their gun holster on their utility belt, there's no problem. There's no issue. What are they standing there with it tucked in their pants like if it's Boys in the Hood? The movie, by the way. No, that's not what it is. Don't confuse the two. Don't try to confuse your constituents. People that commit gun crimes are illegally obtaining these firearms. So why do you want to penalize law-abiding citizens who are trying to protect themselves from that very same thing? You allow the criminals to run wild. You refuse to want to prosecute them when they do commit these crimes. You refuse to want to hold and detain them. So when you allow people to commit crime with impunity, they will so, consequence-free and guilt-free. Because you allow it. You designed it that way. And then you pretend that you want to do something about it. But the only solution that you have is to forego our constitutional rights every time. You know? It's like I've been saying. It's all about, shut your mouth, take your guns, and take your money. Unbelievable.
And I'll tell you, if you're a young person, you're not allowed to have a handgun.
Well, it's a crime already.
I got it, but we won't be able to arrest all of them. So imagine, just in a perfect world, if this was upheld, it gives all of these police officers the ability to focus on the real criminals.
Last follow-up.
Yeah.
If you truly want to help law enforcement fend off crime, why don't you just make stricter laws against actual crime, as opposed to coming after the constitutional rights of your law-abiding citizens who have the right to own, bear their arms? Because that isn't what you truly desire to do. What you want to do is make the population, make the public helpless and submissive. So when tyrants like Governor Hochul here in New York want to utilize law enforcement to kick down our doors and remove us because we have the sniffles, they're within all their legal rights to do so. Because we allow people like you to try and circumvent our Second Amendment rights, our constitutional rights. Just like New York has enveloped our Second Amendment rights in all this red tape that makes it nearly impossible for anybody in New York City to obtain a legal firearm. But you're going to try to say that you want to do this, to help law enforcement?
But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for...
With one exception. If there is an emergency, and I've declared an emergency, on what grounds you've declared an emergency? Because you refuse to uphold the law in your state, and criminals have run rampant, as they do in California, as they do in Chicago, as they do in Detroit, as they do in New York? So wait a minute, so what? You declared an emergency when you created the problem? So you declare an emergency so you choose to use the powers at your disposal to manipulate the law in your favor so that you can try and circumvent the Constitution and take our rights away? No, sirree, Bob. She told you out loud, and she's going to say it again. Not even her oath is absolute, which means her word is not absolute. She doesn't stand by her own word. She took that oath. It's a promise to you, to her constituents, to the people of New Mexico, okay? That she was going to do right by them who voted her in. She's not going to stand to her word. She doesn't care. The Constitution is our governing document. And if she's not going to uphold and honor it, she needs to get out of the fucking office. She is a traitor. That is treason. She needs to be impeached, and she should be. I don't even know. I don't even know why she's still there, if she's still there. It's unbelievable. And like I said, they say it out loud all the time. All the time. We just have to listen. That's all.
Temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute.
It should have an opportunity to be debated, to be able to have facts brought forth by health professionals and those within and leaders within our communities before we just decide to put something in the law.
Uniting New York State and 3 Republican lawmakers, including Assemblyman Chris Tague, filed a lawsuit against Governor Kathy Hochul, Dr. Mary Bassett, the New York State Department of Health, and the Public Health and Health Planning Council. They claim the isolation and quarantine procedures known as Rule 2.13 were in violation of the New York State Constitution. Assemblyman Chris Tague says he believes this oversteps the separation of powers.
It's, unconstitutional in our eyes, and anything like that should go through the legislature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It shouldn't even exist to that egregious of a degree anyway. What Kathy Hochul hopes to do is take our liberty away. And this impacts us because we are New Yorkers. Okay? So if, like I said before, if you have the sniffles, she wants to be able to utilize the police department to kick your door down, red coat style, remove your grandma, your grandpa, your son, your daughter, your baby, the dog, whatever, the fish, at gunpoint. No Second Amendment right for us, though, to protect our home. When How long can she hold you for? How long can they quarantine and isolate you for? That's a good question. Let's find out. Let's find out.
Section 2.13, Isolation and Quarantine Procedures, says to control the spread of highly contagious communicable disease, the Commissioner of Health may issue or direct the local health authority to issue isolation and/or quarantine orders consistent with the due process of the law if the Commissioner deems it's appropriate. The court ruled that 2.13 only gives lip service to due process because the isolation and quarantine would go into effect before the order could be challenged.
As we suspected, the judge found it to be unconstitutional.
We feel, very confident that if we appeal this, we'll be successful.
There she is. We feel confident, she tells you with a straight face, that if we appeal this, we will be successful. You would think that she would at least, buy a clue, right? And say, well, you know what? Let me rearrange this. Let me make a couple of changes. No. She wants it as is. Because that is her point. That is her goal. To take away our freedom. Okay? To take away our freedoms. That week that we don't know where a family member of ours or even ourselves can get carried away, taken somewhere, not know where we're going, can't tell our family members where we're being taken. They're not going to tell you how long it takes before you're released, where you'll be released from. It's ridiculous. Under what? Same thing Lujan Grisham said. Using emergency protocols to do this. That's why they never relinquish these emergency powers. That's why they love it. That's why they like to propagate fear for that. To keep you in a cloud, to keep you foggy, in a haze, where you don't know what's going on around you. Just constant fear. And then, you compound that with an invasion, crime running rampant. Yeah, it overwhelms people. People already have their own daily stresses. How to make ends meet. They got to worry about getting mugged on the train or punched or harassed or worse, or sexually assaulted. It's ridiculous. Then we got to worry about our own government trying to forego our constitutional rights, using excuses, using a fabricated health crisis. It never stops. It's like I said, they use their power to try and pull their agenda off. Whatever it is that they are trying to do, that is what, and like I said, what it is that they're trying to do, topple this country, dismantle our very way of life. He says it, build back better, but it's not better. And you're not building back anything. In order to build back, you must destroy first, correct?
Control of persons infected or exposed. Here's what that means. Isolation is if you're infected. Quarantine is if you're exposed. They both last only so long as to limit the spread of disease. That's exactly what's supposed to be happening.
But counsel, isn't there supposed to be some type of time limitation on how long that's supposed to be happening? I didn't see that. Where is the term of confinement? It doesn't determine where the term of confinement is. Are there definite time frames for the confinement in Rule 2.13?
So, Your Honor, just first off, I would take issue with the characterization of this as confinement.
So, there you have it. You just heard the judge. She doesn't see it there. There's nothing that determines the terms of the confinement. For how long? It's not there. It's not there because it's intentionally not there. I mean, you had to sue your way out of there previously. That's what the Supreme Court hearing found. That was the only way. And right here in the appellate court, they're not finding it either. And what does this lunatic that's representing Kathy Hochul and the Department of Health? I take an issue with it being determined. I don't give a fuck what you take an issue with. It's nonsense, these people. Oh my God, it's exactly what it is. You talk sweet as you stab people in the back with these people. Oh my God, we're doing it because we care about you. Get the hell out of here with your bullshit. Reminds me of Texas governor. He likes to say that he's doing a lot of stuff too. But then there's stuff that he does that he ain't telling you.
This is not confinement or civil commitment, but 2.13b requires that the order is going to include an expected duration.
Is to hold the Biden administration accountable to the laws that exist on the books in the United States of America.
And here we go with the charade. To hold President Biden accountable. This is what they do. The same thing Kathy Hochul did. We got to hold President Biden accountable for this. No, you knew it was being done by design. You wanted this to happen. This is the course of action that you pursued. Don't try to make us believe that it is any different, because it is not. Your actions speak louder than your words. They always do. Take a listen.
Walk us through a typical day at the border. Talk to us about what that looks like and these different categories of individuals.
So let's do a little compare and contrast. What does a typical day look like in New York City with regard to the migration process? And it is completely different than what we are dealing with every single day on the border.
Although you are the sole catalyst for what is happening here in New York and everywhere else. I mean, don't get me wrong, okay? Mayor Adams and Kathy Hochul certainly sitting there saying we're a sanctuary state didn't help matters any, but that was all part of your plan. Don't act like you didn't do this on purpose. You state that there is a problem at the border, which there is. That's obvious to everyone. However, you are the one who is spreading the invasion, spreading the invaders throughout our country, busing them and flying them wherever they need to go. Okay? As part of the resolution. No. That's your design. Okay? To oversaturate our country with illegal invaders in hopes of maybe creating another. Well, let's find out. In hopes of what exactly, right? Why do they do these things? Let's find out.
Go to the UN's website and read all about replacement migration patterns and exactly what they plan and what will benefit the United Nations. I mean, if you just go through these documents, it's right there. The United Nations says they want basically over 600 million migrants brought to the United States, 500 million brought to Europe. I mean, they break it down by country. You can read it in every language you want.
And they are doing it. And they're doing it. Look at France. Look at Italy. Look at the United States. They certainly are doing this.
You can read it in German. You can read it in English. You can read it in Japanese. It doesn't matter. You can read it all right here in the United Nations report. Here's just one highlight here, the scenario where scenario 3 that keeps the size of the total population of Europe constant at its maximum. This is just one scenario, they say, of 728 million people and calculates the number of migrants that would be required in order to prevent the decline of the population in the face of increasing excess of deaths or overbirths. The calculations show that a net total of 100 million migrants would be required during the period of 1995 to 2050 just to maintain the total population of Europe at its 1995 level. This corresponds to an average of approximately 1.8 million net migrants per year.
Is there any wonder why they're so pro-abortion? Is there any wonder why they want to confuse our young people with this gender ideals? Confusing our young people, wanting to mutilate our young people. It's incredible, really. No, there's no agenda, though. It's conspiracy theories! Conspiracy theories. That's from the UN's website.
By 2050, out of a total population of 728 million, 127 million, or close to 18%, would be post-1995 immigrants or their descendants.
We have people who are being pushed across the border by the cartels, by the thousands, into small little communities.
The colonias in Texas a few months ago, Michael Yon actually covered that story for us and went up in a helicopter and showed us these colonias being built in Texas, how these massive neighborhoods are constructed using taxpayer dollars to house and feed illegal immigrants. We're giving them homes. We saw, of course, a massive disaster happen there. A massacre happened in this immigrant population in Colony Ridge a few months ago, back, I think, in May or April of this year. Rival gangs killed, 5 people from Honduras.
There you go. Does he really want to remedy the problem by building them colonies? To house 75,000 of them? Oh, that's the solution, right? Taxpayer-funded colonies, too. In secret. He won't answer any questions. If they reach out to Abbott, nothing. Crickets. Their actions always speak louder than their words. If they wanted to remedy this problem, they knew what to do. Remain in Mexico worked. That is why it was the first thing that Crooked Joe got rid of upon his inauguration. First thing he got rid of, to dismantle our border, to let the invasion begin. He really wants to remedy the problem by building them colonies and busing them all throughout the United States. That's how he remedies that. That's his solution. Go Abbott.
Every time it's the same. They tell us we can't stop these massacres. They tell us we have to stand by and watch tragedy after tragedy unfold in our communities.
This morning, dramatic video showing the owners of a jewelry store in California taking matters into their own hands, fighting off an alleged thief just moments after they say he stormed into their store and attacked employees with bear spray. The family says he smashed this case and filled the box with $70,000 worth of jewelry. Determined to protect their family-owned business, the father grabs a bat. While he's swinging, their nearly 70-year-old uncle jumps in. The suspect's shirt ripped away as he's chased down the street. This attempted robbery comes amid a rash of brazen smash and grabs. Just last month, dozens of suspects made off with $100,000 worth of merchandise.
So there you have Gavin Newsom, taking care of absolutely nothing in California. Okay? Crime at an all-time high, running rampant, no consequences for criminal actions. Piece of junk Gascon won't prosecute anyone. Just lets them go. Homelessness running rampant, people taking a dump in the middle of the street. They don't care. They're even going into people's lawns, into people's homes. You've got people in Beverly Hills leaving their cars open because it is better for them so that they don't break the glass, just let the people go in and steal things from their car. Business is shutting down. No. I guess he doesn't see any of those issues. Things are going great. He's got his own issues. He's working on the big issues, man. He's tackling them. He's tackling them.
From a Nordstrom in LA's Canoga Park. Then there was this heist in Glendale, thieves taking $300,000 worth of stuff from a luxury store. The city making several arrests in recent weeks as LA launches a task force to investigate these crimes.
We view them as organized crime.
They say we can't stop domestic terrorism without violating the Second Amendment. And that thoughts and prayers are the best we can do. So today, I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that.
So there you have another corrupt governor trying to circumvent the Constitution. This time he's not circumventing it because he's trying to add an amendment to the Constitution. So let's see what that amendment entails. Let's see what it does.
The 28th Amendment permanently enshrines 4 additions to the laws of our land. It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21.
You should apply that same mentality when parents want to mutilate their children, adopting the ridiculous ideals that you hold so dear over there in California with this transgenderism nonsense and all that. Keep that in your mind too, right? Can't fire a gun, can't drink a beer, can't cut your balls off either.
Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. It mandates universal background checks to prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime.
Also, if you happen to lean more towards the conservative side, or perhaps you voted for Trump or anyone else that is not an approved Democrat shill, we'll be processing your application a little longer. We'll be scrutinizing it a hell of a lot more thoroughly. Oh, he didn't say that part. That's the translation.
It institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases, and it bans civilians from buying assault rifles.
Already banning guns, it bans civilians from obtaining an assault rifle. Why? It's incredible. See what I'm talking about? These are the things that these corrupt bastards do. Why do they want to, why is it that they really, really want to, they have this desire to make sure that the population is disarmed? Why are they so, they don't, it's not the crime. It's the crimes that they hope to commit in the future and don't want us to be able to form any sort of resistance against them. That's what that's for.
This will guarantee states as well the ability to enact common sense gun safety laws while leaving the Second Amendment intact. That's a lie.
But some critics argue it's the law that needs to change. A proposed California law prevents stores from requiring employees to confront shoplifters, and many major retailers already have no-touch policies in place.
It just boggles my mind how these people really think, and the thing is that they have done it. They have pulled the wool over people's eyes. I don't know if it's just that we've just gotten lazy or we're just caught up with our own everyday problems, but these things need to be paid attention to. They constantly pass laws that allow for ridiculous things to happen, like for crime and shoplifting to practically just be an unpunishable legal act. It's insane to me. But then they want to do things like this. We got to keep our eyes open, people, because like I said, they tell us out loud. They always say what it is that they're going to do, and their actions do speak louder than their words, man. Let's stay vigilant, bro. We always have to make sure that these people are walking a very straight, thin, fine line, and we don't. These people do whatever the hell they want because they're empowered to do so. That's what it is.
This family-owned shop in El Monte says they'll do whatever it takes to safeguard their store.
And we will use every tool available under the law.
That's a lie.
New law that prohibits book banning in California schools is in place tonight. The governor approved the law this evening, and it took effect immediately.
That we're living in a country right now in this banning binge, this cultural purge that we're experiencing all throughout America, and now increasingly here in the state of California, where we have school districts, large and small, banning books.
Was he opposed to this book banning when they were removing American classics from schools like Tom Sawyer and Oliver Twist? Huh? And Moby Dick? Look at the books that are behind him. Nonsense books. Books propagating a bullshit ideal, like something that is not real, that just causes confusion, disruption, and puts people at each other's throats. Like I always say, whatever people do in the privacy of their bedroom, that is your business, but that is where it needs to stay, in the privacy of your bedroom. You don't need to walk outside wearing chaps or celebrating by strapping on a baby with a dildo on. That is bullshit. That isn't you fighting for anything, unless you're fighting for sexual depravity. That's what you're fighting for. That's why pedophilia is running rampant. People kidnapping children all day. In broad daylight. Right out of people's yards. Right out of people's front lawns. Because of demons like this that propagate this, they put on this little suit, this pretend aura that they envelop themselves in of Mr. and Mrs. Nice Guy. That is true evil, especially that sociopath. He's a psychopath, that guy. That guy doesn't have a conscience. He laughs, he smiles, he doesn't give two shits. And that's who the Democratic Party wants to be their little golden boy to be the next president. Okay? That's who they want. They're not going for cackling Kamala. They're not going for camel toe Cammy.
Banning free speech, criminalizing librarians and teachers. And we want to do more than just push back rhetorically against that.
So you saw that there, okay? You got Chuck the Schmuck Schumer over there in the Senate, all right? You got Mitch McConnell, the minority bum, Republican rhino, okay? You've got Kathy Hochul, Michelle Lujan Grisham, Gavin Newsom, Greg Abbott. All corrupt, in my opinion. That is the Uni-Party that they're talking about. The same people that only propagate this disgusting agenda, which is toppling and dismantling our very way of life. Okay? The American experiment is going to be doomed to failure because of people like them. All right? Not to mention the most corrupt administration in history, the Biden administration. Thank you for joining me, everyone. You already know what to do. Hit that notification bell so that you know when the videos are up and running. Hit that like button if you like what you saw today. Absolutely subscribe so that you could be in the know with good old Knoxx right here on In Knoxx We Trust. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.
Let's indict the motherfucker. Let's indict.